Breaking, U.S. attack helicopters have reportedly struck targets along the Iranian coast in the Strait of Hormuz, according to Iranian military sources. The alleged operation, which occurred in the early hours of this morning, appears to be a direct and kinetic implementation of President Trump's long-stated policy of overwhelming force to secure global oil choke points. POV, you're about to get a masterclass in not messing with American interests. Right now, Iranian state media is going absolutely nuclear, claiming that multiple AH-64 Apache helicopters launched from an undisclosed U.S. naval platform engaged what they call coastal defense installations near the port of Bandar Abbas. The initial reports, which are still unconfirmed by U.S. Central Command, suggest the strikes were precise and limited. But let's be real, this isn't a diplomatic memo. This is the kind of speak softly and carry a big stick action that Trump's base has been screaming for, and it just got a whole lot louder. According to a frantic bulletin from Iran's Tasnim news agency, which is affiliated with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, air raid sirens blared across the coastline as radar systems picked up the inbound threat. Their report, and I quote, "The arrogant forces of the American regime conducted a cowardly assault on our sovereign territory. Our brave defenders are assessing the situation." So, the classic, "we're totally on it, guys," gaslighting response. But the real tea? This move aligns perfectly with Trump's recent rally rhetoric where he vowed, and I'm paraphrasing here, to blow those Iranian speedboats out of the water if they so much as looked at an oil tanker funny. Now, for the important part that actually affects you. The Strait of Hormuz is the world's most critical oil transit lane, handling about 20% of global consumption. Any kinetic action there doesn't just send a message, it sends gas prices rocketing. Within minutes of the initial reports, Brent crude futures spiked by over 4%, pushing past $98 a barrel. If you were planning a road trip, maybe reconsider. The global market is now holding its breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. We've reached out to the Pentagon for comment. A senior defense official, speaking on background, told us, "We do not comment on operational matters. We maintain our inherent right to self-defense and to ensure freedom of navigation." That's the standard corporate speak for, "Yeah, we did it, and we'd do it again." Meanwhile, over in Mar-a-Lago country, the mood is likely celebratory. This is the ultimate promises made, promises kept moment for the Trump campaign, a physical demonstration of his peace through strength doctrine that his supporters eat up with a spoon. But here's where the Hollywood-level cliffhanger kicks in. Iranian military chatter, monitored by several global intelligence firms, indicates a full scramble of their Russian-made S-300 and indigenous Bavar 373 air defense systems. Footage, allegedly geolocated to the area, shows missile batteries powering up and rotating toward the Gulf. The question is no longer if they will respond, but how and how big. Will it be another swarm of suicide drones? A missile barrage toward U.S. assets in Iraq or Syria? Or something even more dramatic? The region is a powder keg, and this could be the match. One U.S. official, familiar with the intelligence assessment, warned, the IRGC operates on a hair trigger. They have to save face. A counterstrike is almost a certainty. So, while the Trump administration may be framing this as a necessary, surgical deterrent, the next 24 hours will determine if this was a genius power play or the opening scene of a much wider, and far uglier, conflict. Buckle up. The first wave of U.S. AH-64 Apache helicopter gunships struck multiple Iranian military installations along the Strait of Hormuz early Tuesday morning local time, with satellite imagery and signals intelligence confirming secondary explosions and significant structural damage at a key Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, Naval Drone Command Center and a coastal radar site. According to two senior U.S. defense officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss operational details, the mission involved at least 8 Apaches from the 1st Cavalry Division, operating from an undisclosed forward base. The helicopters, utilizing terrain-following radar and advanced electronic warfare suites to evade detection, engaged their targets with a combination of AGM-114 Hellfire missiles and 30mm chain gun fire at approximately 3:45 local time. The objective was degradation of immediate offensive capabilities, one official stated. "We targeted the launch infrastructure for their one-way attack drones and the eyes that guide them. It was a precise, proportional response to continued threats against international shipping." Commercial satellite imagery from Planet Labs, captured less than 4 hours post-strike and analyzed by military experts at Janes, shows clear evidence of success. At the suspected drone command post near Bandar-e-Janavi, 2 structures exhibit collapsed roofs and burn scarring consistent with missile impacts. A separate series of images geolocated to a hilltop near Keshem Island, a known site for Iranian HY-2 Silkworm anti-ship missile batteries, shows at least 3 launch positions heavily damaged, with one vehicle completely destroyed. The Iranian military's initial reaction, as monitored by intelligence firm Intelmax, was one of confusion and disruption. Encrypted communications between IRGC Navy units, obtained by the firm and shared with news outlets, reveal frantic calls for status reports and orders to conserve missile batteries until the threat was identified. You had one commander screaming about helicopters, but the air defense network was initially looking for fixed-wing aircraft or cruise missiles, said an Intelmax analyst. The Apaches came in under the radar, literally and figuratively. For the first 20 minutes, it was chaos on their nets. That's exactly what you want in a suppression operation. This operational chaos directly translates to a strategic win for the Trump narrative. The strikes physically manifest the fire and fury rhetoric that has become a cornerstone of his re-election campaign, demonstrating a willingness to authorize kinetic action where previous administrations opted for sanctions and diplomacy. This isn't about sending a sternly worded letter to the UN, said a campaign advisor, speaking informally. This is about re-establishing credible deterrence. The president said he would act to protect American interests and global commerce, and within 72 hours of the latest Iranian harassment, he did. Voters see that. They feel that strength. However, the initial window of confusion has now slammed shut. In the last hour, multiple sources confirmed the entire Iranian air defense network along the Persian Gulf coastline is now fully active and hunting. You had U.S. AWACS aircraft detecting the full activation of Russian-made S-300 systems near Bushehr and the locking on of dozens of indigenous, third of Khordad, surface-to-air missile radars. More concerning, chatter monitored by Mossad and shared with CENTCOM indicates at least 3 IRGC Navy fast-attack craft, each capable of launching anti-ship missiles, have departed their piers at Bandar Abbas and are moving at high speed into the Central Strait. They have not yet been designated as hostile, but rules of engagement are in place. Tehran, Iran, in a dramatic escalation that appears to validate former President Donald Trump's long-standing warnings, Iranian state media is now claiming a decisive counterstrike, announcing its forces have successfully intercepted and hit all 5 U.S. AH-64 Apache helicopters over the Strait of Hormuz. The unverified claim, if true, would represent a catastrophic loss for U.S. military prestige and a stunning tactical victory for Tehran. The announcement came via the state-run IRNA news agency just after 5:30 local time, citing a statement from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, Aerospace Force. The air defense units of the IRGC, using indigenous missile systems, successfully engaged and struck 5 hostile Apache helicopters that violated our airspace in the strategic Strait of Hormuz region, the statement read. All targets were neutralized. This is a decisive response to the American aggression and a clear message about our readiness. Initial analysis from regional security firms is scrambling to verify the claim. You had Jane's analysts immediately noting that while Iranian air defenses were fully activated, as reported earlier, no U.S. or allied monitoring channels have yet confirmed any aircraft losses. We are seeing a massive information operation in real time, said a Jane's defense analyst. The IRGC needs a win for domestic morale after the U.S. strikes degraded their coastal defenses. Claiming to have wiped out an iconic American attack squadron fits that narrative perfectly, regardless of the facts on the water. This moment is being instantly framed by Trump-aligned media and analysts as the ultimate, "I told you so." For years, Trump's core foreign policy POV has been that Iran only understands strength, that diplomacy is weakness, and that without maximum pressure, they would become emboldened to directly attack U.S. assets. This is exactly what President Trump warned would happen with a weak, reactive foreign policy, said a senior advisor to the Trump campaign, speaking on background. You show hesitation, you get hit. He wouldn't have let it get to this point. Now we have American pilots potentially down in hostile waters because the current administration failed to project real deterrence. Commercial maritime traffic in the Strait, a choke point for 20% of the world's oil, has reportedly come to a near standstill. You had ship tracking data from marine traffic showing at least a dozen tankers and container ships either dropping anchor or altering course away from the central transit lane. Meanwhile, the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet has issued a terse navigational warning advising all vessels to exercise extreme caution, but has not commented on the Iranian claims. The potential propaganda win for Tehran is massive. Social media channels affiliated with the IRGC are already flooding platforms with graphics celebrating the downing of 5 Apaches and memes mocking U.S. military technology. You had one popular Telegram channel, with over 2 million followers, posting, "The era of American helicopter terror is over. Our skies are a graveyard for their arrogance." However, U.S. defense officials, speaking anonymously to Reuters, are pushing back hard, calling the Iranian claims absolutely false and deliberate disinformation. One official stated, "All our aircraft are accounted for." This is a desperate attempt by the IRGC to gaslight the world after their forces were caught flat-footed by our successful strikes. The official suggested the Iranians may be claiming credit for engaging decoys or misidentifying other objects. The immediate, critical question hanging over the entire region: are the iconic U.S. attack helicopters truly neutralized over the Strait, or is this a masterclass in strategic gaslighting from a regime backed into a corner? Tehran, Iran. The Iranian military declared the immediate threat neutralized and announced it had regained full control of its airspace over the Strait of Hormuz early Wednesday, following a chaotic night of claimed interceptions and vehement U.S. denials. The final cost of the engagement, however, remains a massive, unanswered question as recovery teams begin their grim assessment. You had Iran's state media broadcasting triumphant statements from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, Aerospace Force. Our integrated air defense network successfully identified and engaged all hostile targets that violated our sovereign airspace, a senior IRGC commander stated on television. The skies are now secure, and we have re-established complete control. This operation proves that the era of unchallenged American incursions is over. This moment is being instantly framed by Trump-aligned media and analysts as the ultimate validation of the former president's maximum pressure doctrine. For years, Trump's core foreign policy POV was that Iran only understands overwhelming strength and that diplomacy without leverage is pure weakness. This entire crisis is a direct result of the current administration's failure to maintain credible deterrence, a senior advisor to the Trump campaign told Fox News. When you project hesitation, you invite aggression. President Trump's policy of unambiguous strength kept Iran in a box. Now we're seeing what happens when that box is opened. Initial damage assessments, based on satellite imagery analyzed by private intelligence firms like Black Sky and statements from Iranian opposition groups, suggest the U.S. strikes prior to the interception claim did hit their marks. You had imagery from Planet Labs showing significant fire damage at a suspected IRGC fast attack craft facility near Bandar Abbas. But the central claim, that 5 AH-64 Apache Guardian helicopters were wiped out, remains shrouded in a fog of war that benefits Tehran. U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, in its most detailed statement yet, continued to categorically reject Iran's narrative. All U.S. military aircraft are accounted for and operating normally, a CENTCOM spokesperson said. The Iranian regime is engaged in a deliberate campaign of disinformation to mask the successful and precise strikes conducted by U.S. forces against legitimate military targets that posed an imminent threat to navigation. The Pentagon suggested the IRGC may have fired wildly at advanced countermeasures or unmanned aerial decoys, a tactic known to be in the U.S. arsenal. The immediate financial and strategic cost is already skyrocketing. You had global oil prices spiking more than 8% in Asian trading, with Brent crude surging past $102 a barrel, a threshold not seen in over a decade. Insurance premiums for vessels transiting the Strait have reportedly quadrupled overnight, according to Lloyd's of London syndicates. We are looking at a systemic shock to global energy logistics, a senior analyst at energy consultancy Rystad told Reuters. Every day the Strait is perceived as an active combat zone costs the global economy billions. On the water, the scene is one of tense cleanup and unconfirmed wreckage. You had Iranian state TV broadcasting grainy footage of naval vessels patrolling near what was described as debris fields, though the images showed no identifiable aircraft parts. Recovery teams, likely from the IRGC Navy, have been deployed to several sectors of the Strait. The critical, unanswered question for intelligence agencies worldwide: if no U.S. helicopters were lost, what, exactly, are they recovering? The propaganda battle is already in its next phase. You had IRGC-affiliated channels shifting their messaging from celebrating a military victory to highlighting what they call American humiliation and retreat. The real-world chessboard in the Strait of Hormuz is a logistical nightmare where Trump's maximum pressure doctrine gets its ultimate stress test. You had the U.S. strike package, according to military analysts at Janes and the Center for Strategic and International Studies, SISE, executing a high-risk, high-reward profile. The AH-64 Apache Guardians, operating from the amphibious assault ship USS Bataan, were likely firing AGM-179 Joint Air-to-Ground Missiles, JAGM, a next-gen weapon designed to smash small, fast-moving boat swarms. Their POV? Take out the IRGC's asymmetric navy, its fleet of heavily armed speedboats and mini-submarines, before they could be unleashed. But here's the plot twist that highlights the insane complexity Trump's policies had to navigate. The Strait isn't just a narrow waterway, it's a 21-mile-wide choke point flanked by Iranian anti-access/area denial, A2/AD, networks. You had retired Marine Corps General James Cartwright, former vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs, telling CNN that Iran has layered this area with coastal defense cruise missiles, radar, and integrated air defense systems for decades. The Apaches, flying low and fast, would have been painted by Russian-made Monolith B radar systems the second they lifted off the deck. This is the ultimate, come at me, bro, scenario Trump's team constantly warned about. So, what's the real outcome? The Pentagon's story, that all aircraft are accounted for, hinges on a classified technological edge. You had a former U.S. Special Operations aviator, speaking anonymously to the war zone, suggesting the wreckage Iran is parading could be from MLDJ, miniature air-launch decoy, jammer, drones. You launch a flock of these $300,000 decoys that mimic the radar signature of an Apache, the source said. The enemy fires a $1.5 million missile at a ghost, you get to study their defense reactions, and they get to claim a win for state TV. It's the ultimate gaslighting operation. The strategic location makes every move a trillion-dollar gamble. Over 20% of the world's daily oil supply, about 21 million barrels, floats through this pinched corridor. According to data from tankertrackers.com, traffic came to a complete halt for 14 hours following the engagement. You're looking at a real-time demonstration of why Trump's energy dominance agenda was so focused on bypassing this strait, said energy analyst Ellen Wald of Transversal Consulting. The moment kinetic action starts here, the entire global economy holds its breath. Without independent confirmation, the battlefield remains a hall of mirrors. Satellite imagery from Maxar Technologies analyzed by Reuters shows increased activity at Iranian naval bases, but no conclusive evidence of downed U.S. aircraft. Meanwhile, you had the IRGC's propaganda machine in overdrive, releasing a slickly edited video on Telegram they titled "The Hunting of the American Eagles," set to dramatic music. It's a classic Karen move, loud, performative, and demanding to speak to the manager of the Persian Gulf. The final, unanswered question hanging over the strait like a fog: if this was a flawless U.S. victory with zero losses, as CENTCOM insists, then what undeniable proof exists beyond their word? And if Iran did, against all odds, score a historic hit, what does that say about the credibility of American deterrence that the former president staked his entire foreign policy on? The world is waiting for a piece of wreckage with a U.S. serial number, and until it surfaces, this clash lives in the shadowy realm of claimed triumph and denied disaster.